It's the home of the Chiefs, the home of the champs. You might see rain and wet conditions. I see tears of joy outside Arrowhead Stadium, where in 5 hours we're kicking off the 2020 NFL season. And as you can imagine, that has Chiefs fans all kinds of fired up.
They're running back, baby! Two Super Bowl in a row! Live from Arrowhead Stadium! Woo-hoo!
And if that guy was any indication, infinity retreats for this one from the Chiefs account, as we are all ready for tonight. Patrick Mahomes beginning the quest for the Lombardi Trophy ×2, trying to be the first quarterback to lead his franchise to back-to-back Super Bowl victories for the first time since that guy wearing a Bucs number 12 over there on the left led the Patriots to wins in Super Bowl 38 and 39. And with that, we say hello and welcome to NFL Game Day Kickoff, presented by EA Sports Madden NFL 21. I am Rhett Lewis here with a couple of guys sporting a combined 20 games of season opening experience. David Carr, Maurice Jones-Drew, fellas, so glad to be here with you. And while it is a celebration tonight, fellas, there is no denying that we live in a world full of division and uncertainty on so many levels. But whether you take a knee or take a stand, tonight we can unite around football. And that feels good to say as we kick off a season that is committed to demonstrating that a more just world will, in fact, take all of us. However, guys, nearly all of Chiefs Kingdom will be watching this one from home, right? As just 17,000 fans will be inside Arrowhead Stadium tonight, MJD. I guess you got to go back to, your high school days to get a game like that? What's your take on how this is all going to feel tonight?
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. I have to go back to Owens Field, where the great De La Salle Spartans played, and we packed that house with about 5,000 people. And you know what? You have to become a professional. This is when we always say you need to be a professional in the offseason and all those different type of things. Well, once you cross those lines, you're not going to have the support of the fan base. Again, 17,000. I was at the AFC Championship game this past year where it was packed and they were screaming. You're not going to have that. It's going to be more like a scrimmage or more like a practice. And so you have to go out there and be laser focused on your job and make sure that you don't have to take out the noise, which can mess you up, can be a distraction. Now you have to focus with being able to hear all the calls and everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from Kansas City's perspective, this has to be a lot different. We've both played there, MJD. You know what it's like walking out and the home of the Chiefs and everybody in the whole stadium shakes. I mean, that's going to be different. And from a quarterback's perspective, I'm Deshaun Watson. I'm actually pretty thankful, because that can be one of the most difficult things to manage through, is being able to hear the call, communicate with your team. Your offensive line can't hear you. You got to go through silent count. I mean, there probably hasn't been any of that throughout the entire course of training camp or getting ready for this game. So that's a blessing in disguise. I look for it to be, from a quarterback's perspective, fairly easy to communicate. And so what does that equate for me? A very high score. So I'm excited to watch this game.
And of course, the 17,000 fans in accordance with local guidelines there due to COVID-19, but one of just many ways that this season will be different due to the coronavirus pandemic. But that does not temper the excitement of these players as they get ready for this game, especially for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as they begin this season as the defending Super Bowl champs.
It's very exciting to be the first game of the year. All this anticipation, but at the same time, it's just we're playing a football game, and I think it's all the hard work that me and Deshaun, and knowing how he works, have put in to be in this situation, to go out there with our teammates and try to win a football game. And so I'm just excited for the opportunity.
Look, I think we all, obviously we're very biased, but football, we believe, is America's game, and I think this is the first game of just an absolutely unprecedented time, historic time, 2020 season.
I'm sure it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Pretty sure Deshaun Watson and his team are going to make some big plays, and we can't get down, especially as a defense. We got to keep playing, we got to keep rallying, but I'm looking forward to it.
Two great teams that's going out there and competing, and we both want to, go out there and win. We both want to go out there and dominate. We both got to take, care of our opportunities whenever the opportunities come. So, like I said before, two great teams going head to head, and, we're looking forward to it.
Take it right back to Kansas City right now outside Arrowhead Stadium where Jeffrey Chidilla is with us today on NFL Game Day Kickoff. Amidst the rain, Jeff, so glad to have you here with us. Jeff, this season opener for the Chiefs, unlike any they've had in some 50 years, as they begin this season as the defending Super Bowl champs. How are they handling the emotions of it all?
Well, they're trying to do their best to manage those emotions, Rhett. Obviously, they've gotten their rings already. 2 weeks ago, they raised the flag in the stadium at a practice. They'll raise another banner tonight. But they understand that if they want to run it back, this can't be about looking back. Patrick Mahomes and Frank Clark both said last year was great, but it was last year. This is a new team with new challenges. That starts tonight with the Houston Texans. They don't want to get caught up in too much of this. We're great. This is wonderful. Look what we did. It's been 50 years. They want to focus on moving forward and getting back to the Super Bowl.
No question about it. And as you look at the major concern for the Chiefs as they try to defend a very potent Texans offense led by another quarterback who was just recently paid handsomely in Deshaun Watson, what are they saying is their biggest challenge defensively tonight?
Well, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said what's going to make it tough dealing with this offense now is just not knowing who the go-to guy is. When they played this team the last couple years, they've known that DeAndre Hopkins was the guy that Deshaun Watson wanted to go to first and foremost. Now you're talking about an offense that has Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, David Johnson's in the mix, Duke Johnson. They're going to spread the football around a lot more, and the Chiefs are coming into this game with two issues on defense. One is defensive tackle Mike Pennell is suspended for the next 2 games, and cornerback Rashard Breeland, who's their best player at that position, is suspended for the next 4 games. So they'll be relying on some untested players. They'll be finding out a lot about some untested players tonight.
So some uncertainty with Chiefs personnel, certainly uncertainty as to how we're going to see this new Texans offense unfold as well. Makes for all kinds of intrigue tonight at Arrowhead. Thanks very much, Jeff Chidilla. We'll check back with you throughout the next couple of hours as we're back here now with David Carr and Maurice Jones-Drew. And DC, look, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs, led by the reigning Super Bowl MVP in Patrick Mahomes. But there's a lot of reasons why these Houston Texans should not feel intimidated or should not feel like they are the inferior team just based on last year's experience. How do you see that part unfolding?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Rhett. When we talked to Deshaun Watson a couple of days ago on our network, he kind of laid that out to me. I brought up, the games last year, and he said, DC, you got to remember, we won the first game in Kansas City, and we played pretty good for 3 quarters. It was 1 quarter that kind of got away from us, and they just had a huge explosive offensive performance, and it got out of hand. But they feel very confident in their group going into the stadium, especially with the stuff that I laid out, in the first segment. It was just the noise factor is going to be different. The environment's going to be different. There's not a lot of that stuff that you have to worry about on the outside. So for them, their offense is going to look slightly different. DeAndre Hopkins was a big part. I mean, you can't watch the Texans game and say that they're going to be a better off without DeAndre Hopkins. Now they're going to be different. They have 2 good backs. They still can push the football down the field. Will Fuller, hopefully Brandon Cooks is healthy. That offensive line is going to be better. Hopefully he doesn't take as many hits. But I think that they feel really confident going in here. And I know the noise is all about Patrick Mahomes and what those Chiefs did coming back from down 24 points. But the Texans are a very confident group walking in there.
Well, for me, guys, and we're talking about Patrick, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. For me, we saw Patrick Mahomes throw from the pocket. And we heard in an interview last year that he said, I'm finally starting to understand defenses. I'm starting to be able to read defenses. That is what's scary about this. So when we're talking about this rivalry, yes, I've seen Deshaun Watson make some huge plays and do some great things, but Patrick Mahomes is only getting better. We've seen him throw 50 touchdowns and win the MVP. We've seen him win the Super Bowl, and yet he still has a lot of room to get better. When I've talked to Eric Bieniemy, the OC for the Kansas City Chiefs, he said the same thing, like he's getting better play after play, practice after practice, game after game. And I think that's what's scary, because when you talk about a Houston Texans secondary that's, they're trying to mix and match and put some pieces in there to help out. If this man continues to learn, and when I say man, because he's a grown man when it comes to that football field, he's only 24 or whatever he may be. He's still a grown man on that football field. Once he understands defenses and starts to attack and anticipate throws, Kansas City Chiefs are going to be something to deal with.
No question about it. I'm also curious to see how the time of possession will play out in this one. Almost 40 minutes in that Texans victory in the regular season a year ago, and see if that is a similar formula for victory tonight against the Chiefs. It's going to be a great one, guys. We'll have much more on it as we continue by bringing in our NFL Network insider, Ian Rappaport. And Ian, look, it takes all of us the theme of the season as we try to address social injustices in this country and around the world here. And for the Texans and Chiefs, how are they promoting their voice for this cause together tonight?
Well, there are several ways, and you're going to see all sorts of things tonight that are going to be new and really not the culmination, but one of the biggest sort of end points, jumping off points, or actually is probably a better way of saying it, based on everything we've seen this entire offseason, which really has been about social justice and protests and taking a stand and making sure that everyone knows it is simply not good enough to continue the status quo. And basically what's been happening behind the scenes now for the Chiefs and for the Texans, that some of their key players, some of their team spokesmen, you might say, some of the players who've been more involved in social justice have been meeting, not in their own team, but with each other. Basically, Texans and Chiefs players discussing what they are going to do. My understanding is the current plan is that most of the players, or potentially all the players, are going to stay in the locker room during the playing of the national anthem. That is going to be their protest. Come out after the national anthem, have a show of unity between both teams, then a moment of silence, and then play the game. You're also going to see many players on these teams wearing shirts that colleague Tom Pelissero just tweeted about, saying on the back, "End racism." These were sent right here, actually. These were sent to all teams around the NFL. Injustice against one is injustice against all of us. Obviously, tonight is going to look very different before the actual football is played.
And that T-shirt in particular, as Tom says there, designed by Texans safety and special teams stud Michael Thomas. So that's just one of the ways in which we will see the players promote the cause of ending social injustice here. And guys, and as we get to another move around the NFL, it's just kind of an interesting story of Jason Peters as he came back to the Eagles in a new role, a new position at guard, and now forced back to his old stomping grounds at left tackle and getting handsomely rewarded.
Yeah, well, look, what the Eagles did here is created a fantastic depth situation where they had their starting guard who is capable of playing left tackle. Okay, well, now he needs to because Andre Dillard's out for the season, but he didn't want to get paid like a guard. So he came in this week, told the Eagles, you know what, I will play left tackle. And then they said today, okay, well, we will pay you like one. They reworked his contract. He can now make up to $8 million with $4 million guaranteed, a bump for Jason Peters. Kind of rewards him for going into facility and being a good guy and saying, all right, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I'm going to play left tackle. That money didn't come from nowhere. What I'm told, part of this was Lane Johnson, the other starting tackle, restructured his contract, took his base salary, turned it into a signing bonus, and created more than $5 million in cap room to make all of this happen.
Well, it's good to see for Jason Peters, and I know the Eagles are glad they have him back in the fold to fill that void now at left tackle once again. Ian Rappaport there with the latest for us. Thanks very much, Ian. We're just getting started here on NFL Game Day Kickoff as we continue taking a look at this marquee matchup to kick off the 2020 season. And to get a better sense of what this 2020 Chiefs team will look like, how about we ask a Hall of Famer, a guy like Will Shields, who is going to join us here on the other side of this break. We'll get his take on the Chiefs' most dangerous playmaker and more right after this.